everyone, and a very warm welcome to the webinar for the virtual PhD tour. Today, our theme is mathematics. My name is Soumya Jaswani. I'm the manager for Campus France Rajasthan region. And I first need to thank our panelists and also to the French Embassy of India, who has organized this webinar in collaboration with these French universities. Just to give you a quick idea, it's a 1 hour long session. We have to be very strict with time. We have 4 panelists from 4 French institutions and an alumni who has done a part of their doctorate in France. Okay, the first half is going to be presentations. They will speak about their institutions one by one. And then after that is a Q&A session where you will be putting your questions to us and we will direct them to these participants, these panelists. I just have one request to all the students or the professors who are tuning in. If you have any query, please do write it in the question and answer box instead of the chat box, because normally we lose a lot of important questions in the chat box. And in the other box, the professors can directly also answer them. So that's my only request. And other than that, we'll try to take care of all the questions possible. For now, I will hand over the parole, as we say, to Meenakshi Singh. She is the scientific coordinator at the French Embassy in India. Over to you, Meenakshi. Meenakshi, please unmute yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Soumya. Good evening, everyone. This is Meenakshi Singh, scientific coordinator at the French Embassy in India. First of all, I would like to welcome all our amazing panelists who are with us today and all the participants. With this PhD tour series, we aim to bring the best French higher education institutions to the Indian students and provide them information regarding different opportunities available to pursue higher education in France. Now, coming back to the theme of our webinar today, which is mathematics, I'm very pleased to inform you all that links between mathematicians from India and France are very old. As a matter of fact, the first cooperation that ever took place between India and France was in the field of mathematics. Mathematics has been studied in India since ancient times. India has some premier institutes such as Chennai Mathematical Institute, Institute of Mathematical Science, TIFR, Indian Statistical Institute, offering postgraduate courses and facilities for research and PhD studies in mathematics. At the same time, France is well known for its research excellence in the field of mathematics with 12 field medals, which is often described as the Nobel Prize for Mathematics. France is second in the world in terms of field medals after the United States. Besides, over 4,000 mathematicians they are working in the academic sector in France, and around 10% of researchers, they are working in the public research organizations such as CNRS and INRIA. There are several MOUs, agreements also between French and Indian University in mathematics that can help the Indian students in pursuing a PhD in France. Besides that, the French Embassy in India provides a number of scholarships such as Raman-Charpak Fellowship for PhD, Charpak Research Internship for Masters and Bachelors, enabling young researchers from India to pursue higher studies in France. Students can also go through Campus France website, which gives comprehensive information on all the French doctoral school and also displays PhD positions available at the French Institute and universities. To this end, I would like to inform all our fellow participants that the French Institute in India and Campus France in India are always there to guide and help Indian students to follow their dream of doing a PhD in France. Without any further delay, I would like now Soumya to take over and take the panel discussion forward with our panelists for today. Thank you, Soumya. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi, for giving us a brief idea of the Indian and French landscape when it comes to PhDs, especially in mathematics, and the great collaboration that we've had over the years. Before we move on to the panelists, there are questions coming in the chat box. For those who have joined in late, please do put your questions in the Q&A chat box so that we can take it. And now we have Professor Michel. He's from the Université de Montpellier, and he's a professor of algebra and geometry, and I will let him talk about his amazing doctoral school. Over to you, Michel. Michelle, you're on mute, so we're not able to hear you. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, I should be in now. Yes?
Yes, and your slide is perfectly visible. Good. Thank you.
The slide is there now? Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. I will start by giving a couple of information about our doctoral school, and in particular, Doctoral school is the Doctoral School Information Structures and Systems in Montpellier. It is quite a big doctoral school. It's made up of around 400 PhD students and 100 PhD students enrolled each year. There are 50% of the students come from abroad, and in the last 10 years we have also had the pleasure to have 30 students from India. There are 4 main disciplines: mathematics, engineering, computer science, and physics. And I will mainly talk about the mathematics part. Let me just mention that 11 laboratories are enrolled in this doctoral school. The enrollment takes place in April and May. So we suggest you to check the website of the school that you find on this slide, edi2s at montpellier.fr, just to check which are the deadlines. With respect to mathematics, I will talk a little more about our lab, about our department, which is called IMAG, Institut Montpellier Alexandre Grothendieck. This is one of the main hubs in mathematical research in our region, together with Toulouse, and it is a joint research unit of the University of Montpellier and of CNRS, National Center of Scientific Research, that was mentioned before. We cover a wide range of topics that go from fundamental mathematics, like algebraic geometry, that's what I do, and industrial application. And we are 100 of permanent people, and there are 60 to 70 PhD students and postdoctoral fellows that produce altogether around 200 publications per year. We are divided in 4 teams, and one research team which is shared with INRIA, which is an industrial research institute. The 4 teams are Axiom, which is basically a team in analysis, scientific calculus, and PDEs, optimization, which is made up of 25 permanent researchers and around 15 PhD students. DEMA, which is a research team which is focused on didactics, epistemology, and mathematical education. This is a small team who takes care of the education of university of teachers for the high school, and mathematical education and cognition. Then there is the team of probability and statistics, who is almost the same size of the analysis team. They have different topics like Bayesian inference, machine learning, and recently they've been open also towards artificial intelligence, which is an important topic, of course, for the future. The biggest team is the pure mathematics team, Géométrie, Topologie, and Algebra. We are 41 with 15 PhD students, and our teams are the classical teams of pure mathematics, from algebra to topology to geometry, both algebraic and arithmetic, and differential geometry. And we have also been opening a bit towards combinatorics, also in connection with informatics. So there are application and partnership with several partners in the region that include biology, in particular biomechanics, ecology of populations, environment, in particular flooding, which is an important thing here, and agronomy, which are important topics here in the region. And these teams are boosted and financed by the local projects MUSE and LabX NewMed. Here is a list of our industrial partners with which we have common PhD students, for instance. And just a final remark, Alexander Grothendieck, one of the most important mathematicians of the 20th century, was working here in Montpellier. And on the website of the Institute, you can find a copy of 20,000 pages of his archive. And we haven't been able to read all of them yet. So we're waiting someone to do this job for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Michel. Just for all the students, Professor Michel might have to leave us shortly because he has another prior engagement. But we have another professor, Professor Moule from the same university, so he will take the questions. And now we have Professor Hartmann. Good evening, Professor. So he's from the Université de Bordeaux, and he's a professor in the Institut de Mathématiques de Bordeaux, which is the Mathematics Institute at Bordeaux. I will let him take charge now. I will just share my screen for his slide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, my name is Andreas Hartmann. I'm a full professor in mathematics, rather pure mathematics, in fact, in analysis. And so I'm the head of the doctoral school of computer science and mathematics in Bordeaux. So we have two big themes, computer science and mathematics. Bordeaux is one of the bigger metropoles in France outside Paris, and it's located in the southwest of France, close to the Atlantic Ocean. There are two universities.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just speak a little louder for us because it's not very clear? Thank you.
Okay, so okay, so I'm the head of the doctoral school in computer science and mathematics in Bordeaux. So Bordeaux, which is quite big metropole outside Paris. We have two universities in Bordeaux. One is in human sciences, and the other one, which I'm representing today, is the University of Bordeaux, which covers all the other subjects, so sciences, but also law, economics, medical school, sports, and so on. We are also connected with the Polytechnic Institute in Bordeaux. In Bordeaux, we have 8 doctoral schools, which are federated in what is called a research graduate school. You see some contact information below. This is a general thing in France. Often the graduate schools, or the doctoral schools, are federated in these research graded colleges. Maybe at this point I can give some more general information. Is in France, when you do a PhD, not only you have to do research on your specific subject, but you're also obliged to follow a training program. And the research graduate school offers a large program to do this training. So in our school, it's 100 hours that you have to do during the 3 years. And this is a general thing in France. So as I said, we are in computer science and mathematics. Mathematics is subdivided into pure mathematics and applied mathematics and scientific calculus. I will say maybe something more on that a little bit later. I will not go into the details of the figures which you see on the screen. So with respect to the other two schools which are presented today, we are rather a small school. We have 200 students, but this is only math and computer science. So you should note in particular the contact information. So there's a website down there, https ed mi and so on. This is unfortunately only in French for the moment, but you can get very general information on how to do a PhD in France, and in particular in Bordeaux, on the website of the Graduate Research School. The link, you find it also below. I think at some point you will get information of my personal mail address. You can also, of course, contact me to get information. In France, it's mandatory to have a master, of course, and funding. I will speak about funding process at our school. Is a competitive situation, so it can help if you have a master from an internationally renowned school or from a French university. For your information, this year we have awarded an Indian student with one of our fellowships, and he did a part of his master in Bordeaux. Coming to funding, so our school, you see we have between 55 and 60 fellowships, no, not fellowships, PhD starting each year, and we offer 12 fellowships each year, so this is only 20 to 25%. All the other students are funded by other research agencies or institutes like INRIA, which is also given on the slide, and CNRS, but there are also research projects from the European Community Union or the French Research Agency. If you want to come to our school and you will come with another funding, you should know that we ask for at least €1,000 per month available in order to do your PhD in good conditions. Our selection process, this is maybe an interesting information. So it's in 2 steps. You have to apply first. On our website, the subjects will be displayed, and then you can apply to these subjects between beginning of April and mid-May. So this is important to know. And if your research application is strong enough, then you can be invited for a job interview in June. And this is something which is probably similar to other institutions. I also mentioned that there exist co-tutel programs, so we do not have specific funding for that, but this can be another way of doing a PhD. In this case, you will be simultaneously in 2 universities, one in France and the other one in India, and then you spend half of the time in France and half of the time in India. This is an interesting thing to consider. I would like to finish on an important remark. So, of course, you can contact me for more information, but don't write to us and say, can you give me a PhD? The first thing you have to do is to find a person, a potential supervisor, which could supervise your PhD. So, on the contact info, well, it's not on the contact information, but you should go and Google, for example, Institut de Mathématiques de Bordeaux. So on the slide, you see IMB. So this you have to look, and there you can find all the information on the mathematics which are done in our region. It's a broad laboratory. We have many different topics. We have 3 research teams in pure mathematics and 5 in applied mathematics. So find a supervisor. This is first important step, and preferably before February, March, because if you find a supervisor interested by you, then he can probably propose a subject. Just to finish, some figures. We have around 340 research fellows who potentially can participate in a PhD supervision. 220 of them are officially allowed to direct the thesis, and it's half computer science, half mathematics. So around 100 colleagues who can supervise a PhD in mathematics. 40% of our students are foreigners, and I've checked, we have 11 Indian students for the moment, but 10 in computer science and only 1 in mathematics. Okay, that's all I want to say, and of course we can answer questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Andreas, and also to Professor Michel. Both the slides were very, very detailed, and you gave us some very practical advice that our students have been asking us in the previous webinars as well about. So, thank you so much for that. We'll move to Professor Stefan now. Professor Stefan is from the Université of Paris, Saclay, and I will let him introduce the school and himself to us. Over to you, Stefan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. So, I'm professor at the University of Orsay, which used to be called University of Orsay, but now it is part of a bigger university in France, which is called Université Paris-Saclay. And so the French government in the last 10 years has decided to merge several universities into some big research universities. So my university, Université Paris-Saclay, is one of them. It's situated in the suburbs of Paris, in the southwest of Paris. And it is a mixture of several components of former universities, former smaller universities, as you can see on the slides, Orsay, Versailles, and Évry, and also some grandes écoles, because in France, the higher education system is divided between universities, which are more focused in fundamental research, and grandes écoles, or higher schools, which are more focused on applications and engineering. And somehow these larger new universities are made of combinations of former research-oriented universities and grandes écoles. Okay, so it's a sort of experimental and now type of structure. So I'm speaking for the École Doctorale Mathématique Adama, which is a big doctoral school focused only on mathematics, but all types of mathematics. And it covers both students from this Université Paris-Saclay and from another new big university, which is called Institut Polytechnique de Paris. They are both, so they are these two big universities are located around the same place, so in the southwest of Paris. So the second one, Institut Polytechnique de Paris, will be described in more detail by Professor Naviner, and it comprises some grandes écoles, so higher schools, okay, towards focused more on applications and engineering, okay. But somehow we managed to create or to organize a single doctoral school for mathematics, so a single way to let's say to organize doctoral training in mathematics across these two big institutions. So this is why somehow the sizes, the figures will be a bit larger than the previous colleagues. We have every year we have about 100 new PhD students. So altogether, because a PhD student is supposed to last 3 years, but sometimes it's 3 and a few months. So altogether, we have every year about 330 or 340 PhD students together, but 100 are new ones, okay? And we also have about 300 people who are habilitated, so who have officially the right to supervise PhD thesis. Okay? In France, there's a diploma which is called habilitation, which means that you have the right to be official PhD advisor. So this is a big number of people, a large number of people, which ranges across all parts of mathematics, okay? That is from a fundamental, more fundamental to more applied. And I must say that unfortunately, we just have about 1/5 of PhD students who are female. Okay, so this is let's say a continuing problem in France, that we have problems to attract female students to do mathematics at this high level. And this is a problem across the whole country, not just in Orsay. But okay. So of course we encourage male and female students from India to come, but I must say that somehow this is maybe a particularity of our system in France to have this problem of attraction for female students. So as I say, the average duration of PhD should be 3 years, so it lasts a bit. Sometimes it's a few months later. So in general, the PhD fellowships or scholarships are for 3 years. Okay. So in our both universities altogether, I must say that the percentage of PhD students is a bit maybe more French than in the two former schools. We have about 1/3 of foreigners and 2/3 of French students. And also, as opposed to the two previous ones, we have very few Indian students. So I've been in charge of this doctoral school only for a few months. So I don't know the reason. I think that the reason is maybe that, okay, students are coming from a country because they know people, because they have contacts, because there are channels to forward the information to students. So this is why today this is a good opportunity. I would like to encourage students also to apply to PhDs in our universities, because we have jobs in some sense. We have fellowships. We can provide fellowships. We have a large variety of scholarships or fellowships available because of the diversity of the different institutes in our universities. And okay, this is somehow when I discovered this figure, I was amazed that it was so low compared with other countries. Okay. But I think that somehow maybe it's. Things are the students who are coming from abroad, quite often they come because they know a professor in their home country who knows locally professors from our universities and who are able to trust to encourage students to apply, or who advise the students to go there, and who can recommend them also. Maybe this is why somehow Indian students have not managed or are not encouraged to apply so much. But so I hope that these figures will change, okay, in the near future. So as I said, we have studies in all ranges of mathematics, the more applied and the more fundamental. So we insist on the fact that all PhD students must have a funding during their PhD preparation. So during these 3 years, okay. So this is really mandatory. So it is an important step, of course, to find funding, some form of funding. But as I say, we have a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different places to ask. So as was mentioned by Professor Hartmann, we also are very encouraging students to come first to do 1 year of master in France. The second year of master to be done in France, not necessarily in our universities in our universities, but let's say somewhere in France, because it is much easier to judge of the level of the students if he has a master from one of our universities rather than from some place in India. So we know that there are very, very famous and very high level places in India. So in this case, students coming from these high places, we can judge, but there are many different institutes in India, and we don't have the knowledge to let's say to judge of all these to judge of the level of all these places. So this is why we encourage students to come to France 1 year at least, so that we can judge them, let's say, we can compare them with what we know. Okay, we are a bit ignorant of the different places in India, so this is why maybe it's difficult to judge the level of students. And also something I want to say one thing about language. So in mathematics in France, somehow people have tried to stick to the French language. So I have some colleagues who want to teach in French until the end of their career. So maybe this has been also a repeller with the Indian students, because they have to adapt to a new language. So it would be much easier to go to the US or to go to England. But I want to stress that we are trying to change things now. I mean, some people have really tried to move forward and to offer some courses, maybe not all of them straight away, but to offer courses also in English, okay, already at the master level, which would make the adaptation of Indian students on French ground much easier, okay, for the first year. But of course, during their stay, they are encouraged to take French classes, okay, to learn French language. But maybe with the courses, lectures given in English, this would be more attractive. Okay. Well, I think that my time is over. So Professor Naviner will have the possibility to describe maybe more the labs coming from his own from Institut Polytechnique de Paris. So as I said, sorry, I put the clock, so it's ringing. So my university, the Université Paris-Saclay, has institutes which are more fundamental research, okay, from algebraic geometry or whatever, PDs, etc. And also has labs which are oriented towards biology or engineering science and computer science. But it has all the ranges, and together with the Institut Polytechnique de Paris, we really offer the whole range of mathematical studies one can expect. Okay, so let's hope that people from India will be encouraged to apply to our place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. I think you've touched on some really important points, especially, finding a school and things. And this is where I'm quite thankful to all the panelists and, of course, to the French Embassy that we're able to make this sort of a webinar happen so that students get to know really that there are many more opportunities and, there are other channels to apply for that. So thank you for mentioning that, and thank you to everyone. We'll move on to Dr. Jean-François now. He's from the Institut Polytechnique de Paris, and he's the Director of International Relations. Over to you, Doctor, and I will share my screen for your slide.
Thank you. So I'd like first to introduce the Institut Polytechnique de Paris. The Institut Polytechnique de Paris was founded 1 year ago, gathering 5 prestigious French engineering graduate schools with a long tradition of excellence in education, research, and innovation. Today, the Institut Polytechnique de Paris develops an offer of master programs, PhD, and also PhD tracks. PhD tracks are opportunities for excellent students with a strong motivation in research. So students enter in a PhD track 5-year program just after the bachelor, with then an earlier interaction with laboratories, tutoring, and customized preparation in order to better suit the intended doctoral project. It's in the same idea that was already expressed by Stefan and Andreas. It means that we like to, in some way, test the students before to accept them in PhD. Globally, in all areas that is not only in mathematics, Institut Polytechnique de Paris has currently 900 PhD students, has the ambition to double this number in the next 10 years. So it's a strong ambition. Now, speaking about mathematics at Institut Polytechnique de Paris, we share the same doctoral school, IDMH, with the Université Paris-Saclay, as Stéphane has already explained. At Institut Polytechnique de Paris, the mathematics field covers all fields ranging from pure mathematics, algebra analysis, geometry. This is in particular in the CMRS laboratory, and to apply mathematics, that is numerical analysis, scientific computing, mathematical engineering, financial mathematics, modeling, optimization probability statistics, and others. And as Institut Polytechnique de Paris is based on engineering schools, our laboratories have a long tradition and strong tradition of cooperation with companies, and a wide spectrum of applications are covered, in particular computer science and artificial intelligence, engineering, mechanics, mathematical physics, financial mathematics, economy, and other areas like life science, for example. You have here the list of research laboratories of Institut Polytechnique de Paris in mathematics. As already said, CMLS is more pure mathematics, and the others are mainly working in applied mathematics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Naviner. Thank you. That was all for our panelists for today for the French institutions who are representing us. We will move on to our alumni who's had a real experience of, being a doctoral student in France. And after that, we're going to take the questions. So over to you, Dr. Roy.
Hi, I'm Krishanu Roy. I'm currently a postdoctoral fellow in Bar-Ilan University, Israel. So I was a PhD research student in Institute of Mathematical Sciences in Chennai in India. And I was awarded this Raman-Charpak Fellowship in 2018 to do part of my thesis in France. So, I mean, the fellowship and the structure was really nice, and it helped me a lot to actually finalize my complete thesis work. So, it was funded by Indo-French Institute in India, and they have like several other funding options like Raman-Charpak Fellowship for different levels of students and research scholars. I just wanted to mention that apart from this Indo-French Institute, there are some other funding options also available in India, like ACRB has overseas visitor doctoral fellowship program, or there are some funding options also available under Erasmus Mundus and Horizon 2020 and stuff like that. So there are multiple external fellowship options available for researchers in India to go to France and to do part of your thesis or entire thesis work in France. So, coming to my academic life, I think one of the panelists already mentioned that it's very essential that you find some professor who has very close connection to your research interest, and then you get contact with him and figure out a project proposal that you both are interested to work on. For my example, I went to Université, and I worked under the supervision of Professor Cedric Lecopi, and I knew him from a couple of years before I visited France. So I was in contact with him. We were trying to figure out some project that we both wanted to work on, and after like a few weeks of interaction through email, we finally formalized a project that we are both interested to work on. And then after that is done, then I started applying for different different funding options to actually go there and to work with him. So I found this nice program called Raman-Charpak Fellowship, and I applied for it, and fortunately I also got the fellowship. So yeah, so then in terms of academic life, I think the culture the academic environment in France, it's a bit different than that is in India, in the sense that they have very active collaboration between all the institutes inside France. Like there are conferences, workshops, seminars happening all the time, and it's very easy to talk to different people at the same time. And it's also very easy to find people to collaborate on different projects simultaneously, which I found it's not that easy in India, especially in maths. And the other different thing that I noticed in France was that there is a very close collaboration between academia and industry. So there are multiple people who actually finishing their PhD, they go to different kind of industry or during their research also, which is not so much in India, I think. So yeah, so the research environment is very vibrant and active, but not knowing French language might be a little bit difficult at times. But I think, yeah, it would be very useful if you can learn, if you know, or if you can learn a little bit of French after going there. So in terms of non-academic life, I think there are plenty of international students, as probably quite a few panelists already mentioned, there are plenty of international students, may not be that much Indians, but nevertheless, so the international community is very big in the research community. So the international schools in the universities, they are like super helpful. For example, I went to University and the international school took care of my visa, my apartment, setting up my local bank account. They were like super helpful, and they also like organize social events to make so that you can get easily integrated into the local life also, which I think is very nice, and it is needed also. So but I think the one thing that I wanted to mention is that the duration of PhD is 3 years, unlike in India. So you get like 2 years less time to finish your PhD, but people also get 6 months of extension, I think, after 3 years. So you get 3.5 years to finish your PhD, which is different from India. And I think, that's it. If you have any other questions,
Krishanu, we can always throw some more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for already sort of answering a good number of questions that I might have ended up asking you anyway. So thank you for talking both about your experience as a doctoral student and just being a student in France and the cultural aspect of it. So thank you. So we have covered all of our presentations for today. Now it's open to all the students and the professors who are participating if they have any sort of questions. I do have a couple of questions that I will direct to each one of you. We can stick to the same order in which the presentations were done, because some questions are for all the panelists, so we can just stick to the same order. We'll go first with there's a student who's cleared a few of the competitive exams here in India, which you need to be able to be a lecturer or a professor in India. So if they already have cleared this exam and they have that experience of teaching in India, do they get any extra sort of benefit, or are they able to? What is the difference if you're just a master's student applying for a PhD or for someone with experience? So we can start with Professor Moulay, and then then Andreas, then Stefan, and then Jean-François.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. So yes, of course, this is an extra. This might be important in the application. However, what's important is, there is some competition. So we have to look at the whole application, and it depends on the master degree that the applicant has obtained, the marks, etc. So, okay, it depends. There's no rule in this. It might be an advantage, for instance, in applying I'm thinking about our team in Montpellier, working in education. They're training people to teach in high schools. So they also prepare some PhDs on cognition and some education, some sciences of education. So there, it might be an advantage for applying.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Okay, Professor Andreas, what do you have to say about that?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
You hear me? Okay. Well, I think it's essentially the same that I can say as was said before. So it's a contest. Okay, this is a very French thing. Contest means that you have many people applying, and then you rank them. And so each element which could allow to distinguish or to decide one application is better than the other one can add points to that. But it's difficult to say that it's an absolute value to have this. So of course we have to compare. And then also I have to maybe distinguish. So we have our fellowships for which we really organize this contest. So, and for this, it's, well, the best ones will get it, and different parameters can enter into the decision. And there are other colleagues, that's why I was saying, they have to look for potential supervisors who can have financial support. And then there may be not as many people as on our common contest for a specific PhD. And so, of course, no, we don't have didactics in our graduate school. So the situation in Bordeaux is a little bit different. if you want to do a PhD in didactics, then you have to go to another doctoral school.
Okay, thank you. And Professor Stefan, would you like to add something? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was answering one of the questions on email, so I did not follow the full question. So what was it about?
No, I'll just repeat it for you. For someone who's cleared a couple of competitive exams in India to be a teacher, a lecturer, or a professor, and they have some sort of experience already being one, and they now want to do a PhD. So how is it better or different for them as compared to someone who's just a master's student applying for a PhD?
Well, I mean, if they're a teacher in India, I'm not sure they have done a research master. So probably they've done maybe a master of education or scientific education, but then this will not do the job. I mean, they will have to do some at least 1 year of research master. Okay, I think before starting a PhD in mathematics, if they want to do a PhD in mathematics. Of course, if they are interested in PhD of didactics, so that's another thing. Okay, then this is a different department. This is not math department. Okay. This is Department of Didactics or teaching science, but this is not part of our graduate school, for instance, of our doctoral school. But if they want some teachers, some science teachers want to engage into PhD in research in mathematics, then they should do at least 1 year of master, because of course they have to put themselves up to the level of starting a PhD. As I said, PhD is 3 years. This is very short. This is why you must be prepared. You must have really the background, scientific background before starting. You don't have 5 years like in the US, to do your PhD. You have 3 years, which means that you must be prepared before. So I strongly encourage them to do master before.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Professor Jean-François, do you want to add something?
Yes, shortly, just to say that, yes, it's very important to have already the first experience in research, in fact, and better if the candidate have already some experience of publication or attempts, at least. It's very important, because research is also communication about research. So we gain time later if the student has already this experience. And something important also in the selection process of the student, as already said, it's a competition. So of course your file is very important, but we have also interviews between the possible supervisors and the students, in order to, not of course for all candidates, but for shortlisted candidates, in order to know them better, to understand the motivations, and to verify the scientific background.
Thank you. Because we have about 10-12 minutes left, I'll try to just open the question, and whosoever out of you wants to answer, we'll take it that way. Otherwise, we won't be able to get through all of them. Just a quick question. Is there any sort of marks or criteria for an English test that people take before applying for a PhD? So let's say they take an IELTS or a TOEFL. There's any marks or any eligibility like that? I can see Stefan says no. Yes, Professor Muller.
Yeah, so it depends on the doctoral school. So I know in Montpellier, depending on the areas, they ask sometimes people to have already some level in English, okay. But what's sure is that there is we don't impose any French level, any good level in French language. So it is open to people all around the world, and once they are in Montpellier, we propose courses, language courses. I think it has already been explained by other colleagues. So only English level, because we had, but India, I think, it's not a problem for Indian students, right? So this is rather a problem for other countries. We had some problems in the past. So we sometimes impose, I know in mathematics, we are not very, very serious about this criterion. So, but in other areas, like I know maybe in physics in Montpellier, they impose some level. So it depends. You have to check and on the website of the doctoral schools and check what's the needed level.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wants to add, or we can move to the next question? Not really. No. Okay, the next question is, it's somewhat related to what's already been said, but I'll put it out anyway. Does the student need to have any sort of research experience to definitely be eligible for a PhD? Anyone wants to take it? Professor Moule, Professor Stefan?
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, what generally, I think it has already been explained. We ask for a master degree, and usually to obtain such a degree, you have a small experience. But you're not supposed to already have a big experience in research. And I mean, PhD is supposed to be your big experience. So of course, it's okay if someone has already done some research in some other area and wanted to change. It happens sometimes that people come from physics to mathematics. They have already started a PhD. They have some experience. I think this is a good experience, but this is not necessary.
Professor Andreas, I think you wanted to say something. Yes.
Well, I think Moule, he has already said, I mean, what's about it? Normally you are supposed to have a master, and in master, it's okay. You have also a master with rather research, and there are also masters where you do less research. We look at a master where you have done some research, but it's not a big experience. So we don't ask you that you have a paper somewhere, because that's what you're learning during the thesis. So it's true, as was explained earlier, there are other disciplines where they ask for some research experience. We do not.
Okay, all right, thank you. There's another question. So this is related to recommendation letters. So do we need recommendations before we actually apply? I would just answer it on everyone's behalf that it is a part of the documentation, and if I'm wrong, please do correct me. But you do need recommendation letters from some professor here in India, correct?
It's better.
It's better, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right.
Sorry, I have a comment. You know, I mean, recommendation letters, you know, if we don't know which colleague, I mean, if we don't know the institute where the letter is coming from, maybe it's not so valuable. So, I mean, because everybody can get a recommendation letter from somewhere, I'd say. So this is why somehow we have to trust when you look at the application file. If you don't trust the place where the letter is coming from, you know, this is not very, very high level. So very, very good value. So this is why, okay, either we ask colleagues whom we know, okay, who are working in India in some institute, we ask them sometimes, what do you think about this letter? What do you think about this institution? What do you think? Okay, that's the only way we have to judge of the place and of the value of the letter. So again, the easiest, I mean, the more let's say standard way would be to manage to come to France and do a PhD, to do a master year. Okay, but if they cannot, of course, not everyone can come to France for a master, but okay. Somehow we try to gather information from some colleagues in India about okay, the place where the student is coming, but we have to try to order the applications. Okay, so you know it depends on where the place whom the letter is coming from. Okay, unfortunately.
Yes. No, thank you, Professor Stefan. I think that makes very practical sense of what you're saying. So, you know, I mean, you have quite a reason to say that. There's a student or professor, I'm not sure, but they're asking that they applied for a PhD this year. They've already done their masters and they applied for a PhD, but because of COVID, they're unsure if their application actually went through, or, you know, is it going to stop? So has COVID affected the application process, or has stopped PhD fundings or any of that sort?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it has stopped any. It was not delayed. It was not even delayed. I mean, all the juries and the committees in our universities, all the committees we had to make to rank applications were done in the same time. They were done online instead of being done presently. But we had interviews and auditions online, and it went through as before. But it did not diminish the number of fundings. That's for sure.
Perfect. That's actually great for Indian students. Thank you. Anybody else wants to say something? Or yes.
Okay, we had an example of a student from India, precisely, who was applying for a PhD. I mean, it was a contract. I mean, with industry, and in fact, due to this crisis, it has been delayed. So it wasn't, I mean, there was no problem for the student. It's just that the starting of the contract has been just postponed because there was a problem for the student to come in October. I mean, to prepare all the documents, the visa and everything. And then, but the process wasn't, I mean, there was no problem for the process to go on. It's just that it has been slightly delayed due to this visa process. And sometimes it happens. I would like just to say something about this idea of people coming to prepare a master's degree before a PhD. I mean, this is, of course, one has to, I mean, it's a good thing to prepare a master's degree in France if you can. I should say, because this is not easy. I mean, you need funding, you need, and it's not easy. If you can prepare already last year master's degree in France, then it makes, I mean, it gives you a lot of opportunities already in Europe and in France especially. But this is not necessary, not necessary. I mean, you can apply directly for a PhD. And regarding funding, I would like to mention there are also these programs called IRTG, International Research Training Groups, in Europe between many countries that can help. So maybe the interested students can have a look on the internet. There are many schools between Germany, France, Spain, France, etc. So
thank you.
I myself had a student in this kind of program coming from India, precisely. His name is Roy also, so I was surprised to see the same name.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. It's actually interesting that, you know, it was a case with India and this was a webinar from the French Embassy in India, so that's good. I have two more questions definitely, which are sort of like a collation of everything. One is about the CGPA. So a student has done their master's in India already. And of course, we've spoken about doing a master's in France before PhD, but it's about their note, their CGPA. They say that it's not very, very good. But how difficult then it gets to be able to, you know, get a supervisor and a PhD in France. We could start with anybody who wants to go first.
Okay,
Stefan?
so no, you explain, because someone asked about CPG and CPGA, and I didn't know what CPGA meant, so that's why I was amazed, but I was surprised. Okay, so it's just the grades. Okay, the grades you get for the master. I mean, my answer would be similar to the one I gave before. That is, if we know that the student is coming from a very famous institute, okay, and gets a CGPA, which are not the best ones, but from a very good institute, he has more chances if compared with a student who comes from a totally unknown place with super good grades. Okay, so I think that yes, as far as I know, I mean, I'm not specialist of Indian higher education system, but there are slight level differences between places. So it's like in France. Okay, so if we don't know exactly, if we don't have ideas of what are the levels of the students in this place coming from this place, it will be difficult to rank them. Okay, so
right. Okay, thank you. And Andreas, I think you want to say something because you're unmuted.
Well, I think it's exactly what Stefan was just explaining. So we don't have a rule that you have to have at least a certain GPA on your master. So this is not, of course, because it depends on the place where you come from. So I agree. As was said, you can of course apply directly with a master if it's a place where we know people and if we have a way to evaluate this GPA, then we will enter this into our scheme to know where we can rank this person if we are in the contest. So I think it's as was said before. It's
all right. Okay. Thank you so much.
No universal answer.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. There's another question about postdoctoral studies. So if I do complete my PhD in, let's say, Professor Andreas University or other universities, am I also able to apply for a postdoc in the same institution?
Well, this depends, of course. So we in our doctoral school we have no funding for postdoc positions. So postdoc positions are essentially financed in France by research projects, European projects, or French National Agency projects. But many of our doctoral students who finish their thesis, or well, for the last year of the thesis or after having finished it, they can get position as an assistant professor. So they will teach a little bit, they have to teach, and so it's a research and teaching position for 1 year, for example. So this is possible, and there are quite some possibilities. But this is not really just a fellowship to do research. For this, we have to, the person has to look at someone who has a research project to fund this.
Thank you. Professor Stefan, you want to say something?
Yes, so the question was whether the student could continue to work in the same institute after his PhD as a postdoc. Is that the question?
Yes.
Well, I would say that for his career, this is not the best choice. So his or her career, this is not the best choice. Okay, it is not forbidden, okay, because as Andreas was explaining, these are different funding schemes, and once you have a PhD, you are a PhD student, and you can go wherever anybody wants to hire you. So sometimes people stay in the same university, or maybe in a neighboring university which belongs to the same group or whatever. But we rather encourage students to go really somewhere else. So it can be either in France, it can be in Europe, or anywhere else. So we think that it's better for the career not to stay in the same area. But I understand sometimes, and people have constraints, you know. So we cannot prevent them. If they find someone who is nearby and who accepts to hire them as postdoc, of course we cannot protest. Okay, but it's not the best for the career, I think.
Right. Thank you for the practical advice, Professor. Professor Moulay, you want to say something?
No, that's fine. I mean, what Stefan was explaining is fine. It's okay. I totally agree.
Okay, all right. Then I'll just quickly move on to the last two questions because we need to, wrap up very soon. The other question is about a field. If a student is from another field or has sort of done an interdisciplinary research before and now wants to only work in mathematics, not a specific domain that's not mentioned, but wants to sort of switch the field or maybe even do an interdisciplinary PhD. So what do you have to say about that? Yeah, Stefan, you can go first if you want.
Yes. So I mean, if you want to go to a mathematics PhD, again, once more, I encourage him or her to do 1 year of master in mathematics, because I mean, we've had students like this who are like in the engineering and so on, who came to do math, and they thought that it would be just equivalent with writing some code and writing some algorithms, and it was not the case. Okay, so in general, we interview them, of course. We try, but interview is a very short way to try to establish the background. Okay, to assess the technical background in mathematics. So I really would advise to do 1 year of master in mathematics before entering a PhD, engaging into a PhD in mathematics. And if they want to do interdisciplinary, maybe it is less critical. But I mean, we've had bad experience about such students, including students coming from very good universities, but they were not trained. Mostly, they were not firstly trained in mathematics, but rather engineering or physics, and they engaged into mathematics. And okay, they were hired on the good funding because they were from very good places, and this was not very conclusive. I mean, this was not very good ending in some sense. It was so it really requires some background and some technical background, and it takes time to get this background, at least to check for 1 year. And sometimes the student discovers what mathematics is about when they start PhD, and then it's too late. Okay, so maybe it's not so. It's better for them also to assess if they really want to do that, if they really want to engage into math research. Okay, and to do that, you need to have some experience of high-level mathematics, and this is performed this is given by master studies, I think, in mathematics.
Thank you, Professor. We've not heard from Dr. Naviner for some time. Doctor, if you want to add something.
Oh no, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, not a problem. Any of the other professors, or I could just take one last question and we will close. Okay, I think that's good with me. Just the last question is in terms of a co-tutel. Already we've been talking about co-tutel, but have you had Indian students who have done some of their research here in India and some in one of your universities? We have Dr. Roy, of course. We have Krishanu, who's an example. But in your 4 universities, have you had students of that sort?
So I'm not completely sure whether we had co-tutorial students with India. We have co-tutorial students. We have around between 20 and 25 with many places in the world. So for this you have to, well, you still have to find some first funding. So we do not offer specific funding for co-tutorial programs. And then you also have to find, of course, the best way is to find a supervisor in France who knows one in India, or the other way around. So if a student knows someone in India who has a colleague in France who works in the same field, then they can think about organizing a co-tutorial program. And then they can organize the time. There's some liberty, so sometimes it's 6 months here, 6 months there, etc. Sometimes it's 1 year here, 1 year there, and the last year is split. So so it depends. But this is so at our university there's a service who takes care also about the juristic aspect of this, and well, it's a way of getting co-tutorial, and we were talking about funding. Stefan was also mentioning that all the theses in his schools are financed. It's the case also at our school. I was saying you need at least 1,000 euros a month when you are in Bordeaux. So this concerns the time when you are in Bordeaux. So it's not a recommendation for the time you spend in India, of course. And it's a way to do research, but you have to have 2 persons from both places knowing each other and who are willing to start the procedure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Stéphane, Professor Moulay, Professor Jean-François, anybody?
Yes, I would like just in conclusion, I don't know, just so it has been said by someone. So the first thing to do is to find a supervisor. So, I mean, you have to convince the supervisor first. So your supervisor. So you have to find one who is interested in your application. Maybe if you are interested in co-tutorial, you have to find 2 people, 3 people, maybe, at least 2 people. And then, okay, then the rest has to be done later. So the first thing to do is to find a supervisor, to look up in websites of labs, of institutes, and look for a discipline that would be interesting for you. And then, okay, maybe send an email. I saw a question about can I send an email directly to someone in France? Yes, of course, please do. Just send an email, maybe your CV, and ask if this researcher is interested in taking someone in PhD. Maybe he has a contract that can provide some funding. Maybe he's interested. So, okay. So just the first thing to do is to find a supervisor and, of course, an area to work on.
Thank you so much, Professor Moulay. Professor Stefan, were you meaning to say something?
Well, about co-tutels, I don't have much to say with India because I don't think we've had any co-tutels. As far as I know, I don't think we had any co-tutel with India. But for sure, a co-tutel agreement must start from 2 people, 2 advisors who know each other and who trust each other. Okay, it cannot. It is very rarely the case that the student is coming and he knows the professor on one side and he knows the professor on the other side. I mean, all the time, I think it's because the 2 professors, they already know each other and they already collaborate, or they want to collaborate together. Okay, and so the student comes in the middle, and then this is a good asset. I mean, to do a co-tutel, it's a complicated process for administratively, but this is not the business of the student. But in his then, he has a double diploma, which is very good, I think. If he has double diploma from both universities, of course, he has only 1 PhD thesis and one defense, etc. But he has a double diploma, so this is positive from his point of view. But it requires some background, the collaboration between the two people, and some trust between the two people. Okay, so we have co-tutels every year, but as far as I know, in mathematics we don't have one with India yet. But of course, it's quite very possible. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you so much. We have run out of time, so I must wrap this up here. Firstly, thank you so much for all the panelists for making time. And for actually, it's a bad time, well, it's coronavirus and everything, but, for keeping the spirits high, for sharing all the information, very detailed information, very concise information, and of course, taking the questions in every doubts that the students and professors might have. And we hope that this is a way for you guys to have more Indian students and Indian professors who are going to be working with you in the future. So thank you so much for your time and to everyone. That's a wrap from our side. Thank you.